The drone footage is revealing the utter devastation across the Bahamas. The Red Cross is saying 62,000 people, which is much of the population in need of food and water, the basics. Over 13,000 homes in Grand Bahama and Abaco Island are believed to be severely damaged or destroyed. Here's what we can tell you more about the devastation. We've been talking this morning to people from Global Medic, Canadian team, 7 members heading over. They're not sure exactly where or what they're going to be doing, but they have water. They have drones as well, because that's so important for officials in terms of finding out exactly what the situation is on the ground. So Global Medic, as we speak, sending over a team of 7 people. And we've been speaking as well to the International Red Cross about the challenges, really the mammoth challenges that are facing aid workers, because they don't understand fully the extent of the damage. The devastation is such that they haven't even been able to get to people who are awaiting rescue. There is still much work to do. Along with the video just showing the unbelievable devastation, we've also seen video of terrifying moments of the waters rushing in. I want to show you some video from someone you're going to meet in just a moment, someone from Freeport who narrowly escaped his home with his family. Take a look at this. Tim Aylen is the photojournalist who took that video, his daughter and their dogs as they escaped their homes as the waters rose. What a story he has to tell. There's Tim there in the video. I'm going to show him this morning because thankfully, after all of that, Tim, alive and well with his family and live in Freeport. Thank you for being our guest this morning, Tim. It's a pleasure to meet you on the program. Oh, just hold on for just a second. I'm not hearing you, Tim. Can you just talk to me for a second and make sure we've got a good connection?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can, yes. Thank you very much.
The internet is in it. Okay.
We've had it's challenging communications there. I totally understand, but I want to hear every detail of your story. So let me welcome you to the program once again. We're going to talk about that video in a second, but let me ask you first of all, how are you? How is your family this morning?
We're good. Honestly, I mean, the sun is out, as you can see, so that's like a huge relief to not have the storm raging, because I've been through a lot of hurricanes, but I've never seen something just sit on us and just moving at 1 mile an hour, and it just wouldn't give up. So this is a huge relief, and although we haven't washed or eaten or done anything in a couple of days, it's just good to be dry. My clothes that I'm wearing are the same clothes, and I'm just finally dry, so that's a relief. Isn't that extraordinary? Let's talk about that, the video, but the backstory to the video, because as you mentioned, there was Dorian parked over the Bahamas for some 40 hours. And at the time, initially, there you were and your family riding out the storm at home. Sort of what was going on as you were, you know, sort of experiencing that part of Dorian? Well, honestly, we're well inland. We're about 2 miles from the south shore, and I think about 5 or 6 from the north shore of Grand Bahama. So we're inland, so we're safe. We were not in an evacuation zone. We were just told, you know, we're fine. There are many other areas there was so much more in the path of destruction on the north shore. All the keys. I mean, you know, we were going to be fine. The most I thought was my roof was going to blow off, and then I'd have to get everybody out. I never considered flooding. But it's not just the flooding, it was just the way it came in. We had no warning. I filed a photo to AP at about 12 or 1 o'clock of water on the road, but it was just like rainwater. It was just like normal flooding that you might see in heavy rains. And then at about 4 o'clock, that's when it started to get serious. And we saw the water coming under, well, my son saw the water coming in under the garage. And then he ran to my wife and told her, and she went to have a look. And then my wife came to get me. I was actually resting, I was asleep, she woke me up. And in that 30 seconds from her coming to me, we went back into the living room. The water was in the house. And I looked at her, I said, when did this happen? And in the time that she walked to me, it hadn't happened. So, sorry, that's my dog.
Those are the dogs rescued, thankfully. So it literally a matter of seconds. And then what did you say to each other? We have to get out. We've got to go.
Yeah, I mean, and then it kept rising, and it was like 2 minutes, and it was like up to our knees. And we all just looked at each other, and actually they looked at me and said, what are we going to do? And so we started, like, we've got lives on the line. So we thought about the attic, and I went actually up to the attic and I had a look at it. But that's like a trap. There was no way out. So I thought that was crazy. Then my wife started cutting off all the breakers in the house because everything was popping. We start smelling burning from all the UPS backups we had. And then we opened the front door. I've got some footage opening the front door, and the water started pouring in, so we closed that because we knew that would flood the house quicker. And then we just considered the window. My wife said, let's get out the window. So we pushed that out, and then I jumped out and went to look for dry land, basically.
So,
and yeah.
And then now we're looking at what has become this famous video of you and your daughter carrying the dogs. So you're into the water, but it's up to the chest now, and you don't know where you're going. You don't have a plan because this was so sudden. You're just getting to safety. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there was no point staying in the house and waiting for a rescue. That the water had risen so quickly that something had happened. It was a high tide. There must have been a massive storm surge from the north or from the northwest. So it enveloped the whole island, basically. My entire neighborhood was just flooded. Everybody has the same story. There are just thousands of people with the same story that I've got.
Incredible. Tim, let me jump in just so people understand. You're a photojournalist for the Associated Press. So as you're escaping, of course, your instinct is to also record the story, which is why we have this incredible documentation of what happened to your family and all of this. Tell me, we're going to bring in a little bit to show your son as well through all of this. As you're in this water, though, I mean, what's it feel like? Is it fast moving? It is cold. I mean, what's that experience like as you're trying to get through that high water?
Yeah, it's not cold. It's seawater, so that wasn't the problem.
I tell you what, we're just going to bear with me for just a second, and we're going to try to reconnect with Tim. As you can appreciate, this has been one of the difficulties in the Bahamas. Communications are so poor and people are losing battery strength. So just having information from people has been a challenge. This is video from Tim, and again, as I mentioned, he's a photojournalist. So he filmed as his family was escaping. Here's his son on top of the car. Again, it was his son who went into the garage and first noticed the water coming up, and then in just a matter of minutes, it reached the point where the family had to escape through the window. We're not going to be able to connect with him right now. We're going to keep working on that because I want you to hear the end of the story. They are all fine. They have had shelter, all the dogs, all the family, and he's actually been helping with further rescues, just to give you a sense of how the story has ended in case we don't get a chance to reconnect with Tim. But I'll just take a pause right here, and hopefully we will have time to do so with him as we bring you the story of people who have escaped Dorian on the Bahamas, where the devastation is absolutely complete, and at least 7 people have been killed. On the screen right now, I want to bring you some numbers. Oh, I'm seeing Tim again before we leave. Let me just make sure I think we can go back to Tim. I'm sorry, Tim, it's just such a challenge to have good connection, but I want to make sure we get the end of the story. So I've already shown the video of your son in the car, and then I showed some pictures of the kids in the shelter, where you yourself are taking shelter and everyone's okay. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it was get everybody out. 3 dogs, actually. My daughter carried 2. And then I carried a small blind dog that we also have. She's like 16. And then my wife was the last to leave the house. I actually went back in the house, and it was like waist-high water. Yeah, it was just pile out of a window, basically, and just go anywhere but the house. because
Yes.
we honestly thought it was going to go to the ceiling.
So, question, once you got to safety, I understand you also went back out to help other people with other rescues, and we have that video as well that you've given us this morning. You were able to help some people who were in similar circumstances?
Yes, all my neighbors. I mean, I was at the shelter and I asked the Defense Force officer, how can I help? Because I really just didn't want to sit around. And then I saw this truck, this front loader truck, arrive with 10 or 15 people in it. I rushed out and then picked them up, and there was like kids and everybody in it. And then I just jumped on that, and then we went in the neighborhood. And can you still hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. So then everybody got out of that. We went to the neighborhood, and we basically went to the start of the floodwaters. And I jumped off the truck because I saw people running towards me, and this mother was screaming as she was running away from the water, and her daughter, I guess she was about 5 or 6, just screaming as well, and she just jumped in my arms, and it was pouring with rain, and that was so difficult to see. And then I quickly told them, I said, the shelter's just down the street. And then we just carried on going through the neighborhood into the water in this massive construction truck, and just picking people up with this front loader and putting them in the bed. And the dogs, there were so many dogs left behind. I saw a dog gripping onto a fence, and I couldn't get him. They didn't want me. The driver said, no, we have to get people first. So I had to leave dogs. But the dogs are really resilient. They keep going to high ground. But this image of this dog gripping to the top of a, I guess, 6-foot chain link fence, just waiting out the storm. His paw was gripped around the fence, and then 2 more dogs on a porch, which I couldn't get. But we got probably 40 people out of the neighborhood.
Isn't that amazing? Wow, those are very strong images with which you're leaving us this morning. You tell such a compelling story. And it's your story, too. Thank you for sharing it with us this morning. Very happy to know that all of your family is safe and well. Thank you for the time this morning, Tim.
Thanks very much. That's very kind. Thank you.
Tim Aylen, who is a photojournalist for the Associated Press and himself caught up in the devastation of Hurricane Dorian.